Hi you guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be testing out the new Fenty Beauty concealers. I've actually been wearing this concealer for about a week, so this is more of a full review. And I'm also going to do a wear test for you guys, just so you guys can see how the concealer performs on me. I'm going to be wearing my concealer the way I typically wear my concealer, which is in a no foundation makeup look. So I'm not going to be wearing any foundation or anything like that. But I will tell you guys about my experience wearing this concealer with foundation, in particular Fenty's foundation. Next week, I'm also going to upload a video where I'm going to be using the Fenty concealer and the powder with different foundations, just so you guys can see how they perform with other products outside of the Fenty line. I am going to be using 330, and I also have here 345. I bought them both because I'm in between shades right now, and I'm kind of experimenting with 330 and 345 in the foundation shades. So I already have my face, I don't have it primed, but I do have all of my skincare and everything on it. I have to leave the house today because yeah, we need food and things like that, and I have a bunch of errands to run. It's like 13 degrees outside right now. It is just so freaking cold. You guys are gonna be able to see how this concealer works in very, very cold weather. I know all the YouTube gurus are in places like LA, and I don't particularly find that to be very helpful, because I find that products work a whole lot different in very cold climate than they do in just a regular warm Mediterranean climate like SoCal. And I have experience because I'm from LA, so I know how the weather works and how different my makeup is compared to here. I'm in Maryland right now. When I originally tested this concealer last week, I was in New Orleans. So I'm testing this in Maryland, where it's 13 degrees today, versus New Orleans last week, where it was about 60 to 70 degrees. It was very balmy last week. It was amazing. It was amazing. I wish I could go back. So this is, I'm gonna swatch both. I have not tried 345 yet. I've just been sticking with 330, and I don't think 330 is my accurate shade. So there's that. I think it's a little bit too light. I'm going to just swatch the this is 345, and it's very yellow. Very yellow. I think this is more yellow than 330, because 330 was pretty yellow. At least the foundation is pretty yellow, but I don't think that. Yeah, this is more peach, I think, like yellow peach. So those are the difference. So the top is 330 and the bottom is 345. Oh, one thing I forgot. Let me go and wet my sponge, because I have found, this is my Fenty sponge. I found that my typical way of applying concealer, which is using one of these brushes, doesn't work with this concealer. I have to use a sponge. So I'm gonna go wet the sponge, and then I'll be right back. Okay, since I'm doing a no foundation look, I'm just gonna go ahead and prime my face and do what I need to do really fast before I get started with the concealer. So this is my Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. I use this almost every day. I've just really love this. Okay, so I have that out of the way, and now let's start in on the concealers. So I'm going to be using both, which I know it's crazy because they're so different, but actually I'm going to start with 345 since I haven't used that yet, and we can kind of experiment with this together. So let's go ahead, let's see. I'm just going to put this right at the hollow of my eye where it's the darkest. Yeah, that's pretty yellow. What I'm hoping though, what I'm hoping is that this is gonna cancel out the dark circles a little bit better than 330 did. I'm gonna just go up. Definitely think 345 is a much better match for me than 330 was. 330 was rough. I was ready to even give up on this concealer because I just thought it looked so bad, but now that I have the correct shade, I think that that is making all of the difference. All of the difference. Okay, so you guys can see the difference. This is with concealer and this is without. As you can see, it's a huge difference. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. When I first used this, I absolutely hated it. I was just so dismayed. I thought that it was dry. I thought that it was cakey. The color wasn't right, and I have really dry under eyes, and I don't have a lot of like wrinkles or even fine lines. I have the regular creasing lines that most of us have right under the bottom, but for the most part, discoloration and dryness is my main issue with my under eye area. And so I just didn't think that this was a very good match for my dry under eyes. I just thought that the formula was just really not good enough for this. And I think that having the wrong shade definitely contributed to that. And also that I just went in with my regular swipes, and I didn't need that much. So I think that the reason why I disliked this so much the first time I tried it was basically user error. I tried to use a brush instead of a wet sponge. I tried to use my finger, which actually worked a little bit better, but a damp sponge is definitely the way to apply this concealer. And I'm gonna say this though, even though I didn't like the way it looked and I wore it a few days while I was in New Orleans last week, I will say that it stayed put the entire day. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of this on my lid, but not too much. Using too much is definitely the kiss of death for this particular concealer. I will say that. Pretty good. It's not full coverage, but it's good. It's about medium coverage, I think. I'm not gonna try to build this up because I'm actually fine with this coverage. If I wanted more, if I wanted my dark circles completely covered up, then I need to use a color corrector. I don't think that just going in with more and more concealer is the key to covering up my dark circles. That might be the case for other people, but for me, I need to either go in with Tatcha the Pearl or one of my peach color correctors, and I do use NYX and e.l.f. color correctors. So I think that I'm going to use 330 on the other eye. I know that that's crazy, especially because I'm going out today, but I want you guys to see how 330 looks. So I'm gonna just go ahead and do this. Take one for the team and look a little crazy today. I don't think I'm gonna look too crazy. I definitely think that 345 is absolutely the shade that I need to stick with though. Yeah, I don't think that 330, I don't think that the undertones really cover up the darkness the way that 345 does. It just brightens, it doesn't really conceal, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is 330 and this is 345. I just feel like 345 is a much better match for my skin tone. I think the 330 is just a little bit too brightening. I just feel like with 330 that the dark circles are just, I don't know, it looks like patchy. It just doesn't look like it's giving me the coverage. The undertones, for whatever reason, is not helping to cancel out the darkness. So it just doesn't, I don't know, it's just not doing it for me. But I feel like I'm getting a lot more better coverage with 345. I feel like that is working better to cancel out the darkness under my eyes. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go and I'm going to conceal some other parts of my face really fast. I think that this does a fairly decent job in light concealing some of my problem areas. I don't seek to really cover up everything. I just don't want everything kind of like standing out. I was gonna finish this up off camera, but I did get the Fenty Pro Filter powder. I haven't had a chance to use this either. I've been using my Glossier powder because I was out of town and I just needed something a little bit more predictable. So this is Honey, and I think that this is supposed to be an all over face powder. I don't think that this particular shade is supposed to be brightening. So that's the color of it. So it's very brown, very toasty. So typically I set my under eyes with Fenty Beauty Invisimatte powder. I just think that that works best for me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm going to continue that practice. I also use Glossier. I know that that's not a translucent powder, but it just, again, it works for me. Actually, you know what? I've been using Glossier with this particular powder all week, and I feel like the Glossier powder kind of, since I was using 330, I felt like it kind of toned the 330 down a little bit. I used the Glossier on this side because I know that this works with it. Okay, so just so you know, the Glossier, I feel like it works well. I know a lot of people like super yellow or super light or translucent powders. I don't like that under my eyes. So I'm just gonna use my Fenty Invisimatte blotting powder on this side. Okay, and I feel like the Glossier powder actually works way better. I don't like the way that looks. That kind of just sucked all the moisture out, concealer from under my eyes. I don't like that. So yeah, I think that this can definitely be temperamental with powder. And since this is a Fenty powder, and I actually use this to set my other concealers, yeah, it's a little troubling. It's not like I'm using a different brand or something. Yeah, the translucent powder really didn't work well with this side. Now I feel like this side looks a little bit better because it's more smooth and this side is a little bit patchy, but yes, it's a little patchy. And building it up, just, you cannot, I don't feel like this concealer is very buildable. Really shocked that Wowder works better with Fenty than Fenty powder does, but I won't be using that again. I'm just gonna stick with Wowder when I use the Fenty concealer. So now I'm just gonna put this powder all over my face. My hands are the darkest parts of my body. There is no other part of my body that is as dark as my hands. I think it's because I drive so much and my hands are the way my hands are placed on the steering wheel. So that's Honey. And you know, I've swatched it so it's gonna look a lot brighter on my hands than on my face where it's just kind of blended out. I mean, it's not bad. It definitely matches well with my skin tone. It just kind of even things out for me. I think it's a good color match. And it's been very, very hard for me to find an all over setting powder that's a good match for me. So this is perfect. I will be keeping this. This is perfect. I really, really like this one. And it doesn't make me look cakey or dry or anything, which I like. Okay, so I'm just gonna finish up my face. I'm just gonna bronze a little bit, add some blush, some color to my cheeks, and then I will be back. Guys, so this is the finished look. Just a regular, my average, no foundation look. I actually really, really like the powder. I'm actually surprised at how much I love the powder right now. I wish I had just taken a chance on it in New Orleans. I don't have dry skin and I don't have oily skin. My nose sometimes gets a little bit oily, but other than that, my skin is really, really normal. But sometimes in the winter time, especially when I'm out in the freezing coat like I'm gonna be today, it can get a little bit on the dry side. So we'll see how my face kind of reacts when I'm outside. So the 330 side, which is the light side over here, it looks absolutely perfect. And I think that's because I know that it's because I set it with the Wowder. The 345 side, unfortunately, because I went in with the wrong powder, it does not look as nice. However, again, user error. I went in with the wrong powder. I just should have stuck with my Wowder because I know that that works for this particular concealer because I have been wearing it the whole week with the 330. So you guys can see. That's the 330 side. It looks absolutely perfect. And then the 345 side, which does not look so perfect. I'll check back in at the end of the day. I'm going to be out running errands. I might hop on my Peloton. I don't know, it depends, we'll see. But I'm just gonna put this concealer through the paces through 13-degree weather. It is currently 8:53.
It's 8:53. Good morning, pal.
So I will check in later. Okay, you guys, so I'm back. It's been a long day. It is 5:20. The 330 side looks great. I'm gonna insert some footage right here of how it looks close up. Or the 330 side actually looks just fine. It did not wear off too much. I've been kind of scratching my eyes all day and I've been rubbing at my inner corners because I am experiencing allergies right now. And the weather, it was about, I think that the weather, it reached a high of 22 today. So my eyes have been watering all day. I've been blowing my nose. I've been rubbing my eyes. It's just been a mess. The 345 side, on the other hand, looks just as bad as it did when I left. I will say that there's not much of a change. It looked bad when I left and it looks bad now. Yeah, I really messed things up when I set it with the blotting powder, the translucent blotting powder. I wish I hadn't, but at least I know now that it doesn't really work out. So for wear today, I thought that I looked great actually. When I would just catch a glimpse of myself, like in my car mirror or just in any kind of reflection, I thought that I looked really, really good. And it wasn't until I was like super, super up close that I just saw that it looked a lot drier than I would like my concealers to be. You could definitely see the kind of line between where my eye socket starts and the rest of my face. So it is very drying. It dries down very matte. I can't see myself wearing this concealer with Fenty foundation. That's just way too much matte, too much dryness for me. But I can do one or the other. I can do a radiant foundation and a matte concealer or vice versa, but I'm not about to do both. I just do not like my face to be that flat and that matte. That's definitely something that you should consider if you want to use this with Fenty foundation. Just know that you are going to be super dry and super matte, and if you have oily skin, then that's probably going to be beneficial. But me, I have just normal skin that kind of leans dry during the cold winter months, so that's just not the best combination for me. I think that if you want to wear this concealer and you have really dry, parched under eyes, you're gonna have to do a lot of work to make it work for you. If you like to use it all over your face and you have dry skin, you might notice that it sticks to dry patches and things like that. It's very drying, it's very matte, and I really want that to come across to you guys, how just matte this is. Now, speaking of, I thought that it looked absolutely amazing on my face. It has worked fine all day, but it just gave my skin a really, really nice finish. And it didn't stick to any dry parts or anything, any dry patches. I did retinol last night, so if it was gonna stick to dry patches, it would have done that today. The combination of retinol and the dry weather, but no, it worked very, very well on my face. Let's see, the powder, I like the powder much more than I was expecting. The powder is just really gave me a nice smooth finish. It matched my skin tone. I didn't have any oil on my nose throughout the day. I haven't powdered. Now I have been blowing my nose all day, so that could be a thing, but even right here sometimes I do get a little bit of oil and I haven't gotten that yet. So I do think that it's very good for oil control, and I don't think it's super matte. I just think that it's a really, really good balance, and I think it's a nice way to set maybe more radiant foundation. I wouldn't use it with Fenty foundation because I don't ever have to set Fenty foundation. So I have 330 and I have 345, and I'm going to keep both of them. The reason why I am sticking with this concealer is not because it has the best formula, because I certainly don't think that it does. The color, the shade, the undertone, I have never seen a selection of concealers with this many shades in my life, and they knocked it out the park with this one. I have never had a concealer like 345 that fit me as well as this one does. And the fact that the color range is so great, it makes me want to work with this a little bit more and figure out how to make it work even better for me. I think that it can be very, very flattering on me. Just the color alone, it's just great. Would not recommend this for anyone with mature eyes or with a lot of lines or wrinkles or texture around their eyes or even on their face. I just think that you're just asking for trouble. Okay guys, so that's it. This was my review for the Fenty concealers. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will respond. I always do. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace out, you guys.